Welcome to the Renaissance Achiever with Sarah Fui. And it's been a minute since I've done a solo cast. It's been a minute since I've been publishing episodes. I know it's been a little inconsistent, but we're here now, 2026. My podcast has been running for a full year and we're not done yet. I got a lot more to say, so I'm going to sit down and say it. Today, the thought that was coming to my mind is to talk about anger. There are just so many thoughts I have about anger. And I think this is inspired by seeing people on social media being angry about things, calling people out on things, having beef online, being passionate about whatever's going on in the world. There's just a lot of anger. And I know that in the past, and maybe some people still feel this way, but I feel like it's more common knowledge now that, hey, let's accept anger. Anger is not a bad thing. This is a good emotion. It pushes us to take action, right? Whereas in the past, anger is not allowed. We be nice girls. We be calm. We keep our mouths shut. We be polite. And we went from this people pleasing, fake polite culture to now an aggressive, speak your mind, offend others culture. And so anger has been praised more. And I think it is progressive in the sense that speaking out is better than holding everything inside and being in denial and also not ever dealing with things and just numbing them out, but allowing yourself to feel anger because anger has a message for you. It's telling you that something in your life is not aligned. It's telling you that your boundaries have been crossed, and it's giving you the fuel to take action to change the thing in your life that is not right for you. That's the purpose of anger. And so anger itself is not innately bad. No emotion is innately bad. However, acting out from a place of anger is not going to benefit you. It may benefit you in little ways. You're protecting yourself here and there. But if the goal is peace and alignment and fulfillment and the life that you dream of, anger is not the pathway there. And actually, when you look at trauma responses, your nervous system regulation, when your nervous system feels attacked, under pressure, stressed, unsafe, you go into these four different responses: fight, flight. We've all heard of fight and flight. Then there's fawn and freeze. So when we're people pleasing and we're denying ourselves and we're keeping our mouth shut and we're being polite and we're not speaking our truth, we're fawning. It really is a trauma response. We are fawning. And then when we decide to use our voice and we be angry and we set our boundaries and we talk back and we create drama and we don't care what people think anymore, it feels really liberating, but you're just in fight mode and you're still acting from a trauma response. You're still trying to regulate your nervous system in a different way, but it's not necessarily healthier. Okay, let me reframe that. It's healthy to regulate your nervous system. It's not the healthiest way to have relationships. Okay. So if you need to regulate your nervous system, yeah, you got to do that. But when your emotions and actions are spilling into your interactions with other people, that's where it's not going to benefit you. There is a favorite quote that I have from this poet author named Jaya John, and this is what he says: your boundary need not be an angry electric fence that shocks those who touch it. It can be a consistent light around you that announces, I will be treated sacredly. Isn't that such a vibe? Your boundary need not be an angry electric fence that shocks those who touch it. It can be a consistent light around you that announces, I will be treated sacredly. So anger is the electric fence, but you don't have to do it that way. What if you could stand in your power and just radiate this knowing of, you don't mess with me, but you do it in such a grounded and beautiful and profound way that people don't want to go there. Because when you're angry, you're giving away your power still. So many people think, oh, this is liberating. I'm taking my power back, but you're still letting that other person dictate your emotions. No, you're not in your power. You're allowing them to dictate the way you're experiencing life right now. And anger doesn't really feel good to be in anger. It doesn't feel good as opposed to feeling peace and grounded. And so you're still allowing that person to dictate you. And I'm not just speaking in like one-on-one personal beef kind of situations. I'm talking about even huge political things that are upsetting. There's a place for anger, yes, to move into action, but when you stay in that anger, you're going to take action that is misaligned. There's this concept that we all have a true self within us. Our true self can be maybe your eternal spirit, your soul, however you want to perceive it. But when you are aligned with your true self and you're acting and thinking and experiencing life from your true self, you are calm, you are confident, you are creative, you have clarity instead of confusion, you have compassion for yourself and for others. There's no judgment, just compassion. And there's curiosity. There's playfulness, there's presence. And anytime we are experiencing emotion that doesn't align with any of those categories I just mentioned, you are not in true self. You are acting from a wounded or a protective part of yourself. Okay. This comes back to that fight, flight, fawn, freeze. Those wounded parts come up to try to protect you. And so anger is one of those. And it feels a lot better for some people who have just been fawning or freezing and just allowing things to happen to them and not standing up for themselves. So, yeah, it feels really good to suddenly come from a place of anger and fight back. But you're just moving from one side of the spectrum to the other, and you're not aligning with your true self. So, how do you navigate anger? How do you alchemize this anger into this light that announces, I will be treated sacredly? How do you get to that place? What the anger is trying to teach you is that something needs to change in your life. And when you listen carefully to what you are angry about and you make those changes, you're going to be less angry. Maybe it's you need to say no more. Maybe you need to stop being in this relationship. Maybe you need to stop working at this place. Maybe you need to set some kind of boundary in your life. Maybe you need to create structure and organization so you're less overwhelmed. Whatever it is, there are little action steps or big action steps that you can take so that your nervous system feels safe and you don't have to constantly get this flare, this fire alarm of anger, anger, anger. Now, what if it's things that are outside of your control, like world events? If you are consuming news and not doing anything about it, that can make you feel really helpless. And I will say it is important to be knowledgeable about what's going on. I don't think we should stick our head in the sand and be naive. If we are helping to spread awareness and actually taking action to call people who are in places of authority and share our word, or going and testifying and maybe setting up protests and educating and taking action, that can feel empowering to actually know we're doing something about it. But if you don't have the capacity in your life to go out and do something about it, filling your head constantly by consuming all of the horrible things that are going on is just going to wreck your nervous system and make you feel completely helpless. So if you're so angry all the time about what's going on in the world, limit the amount of time you spend consuming what's going on. Read the headlines. Don't dig deep into the news unless you want to go do something about it. I don't know. Is that controversial? Maybe that is. Someone debate with me on this. I think it's important because I feel a little bit torn about it myself. I think it is important to know what's going on, and there has to be a limit. Our nervous system is saying too much, too much, too much. And are we feeding it positivity as well? Because there are just as many good and positive things going on in the world. What you focus on expands. So if you're only reading the negative headlines and news is notorious for twisting things to make them sound worse than they are. News is biased. News wants to pick at your emotions because then they get better ratings when people are scared, when people are upset, when people are angry. That's when they are more passionate about the news and they share it more. So, yes, they are purposely trying to curate those emotions in the articles that they write. So, just taking a step back from that and creating a boundary for yourself on what you're going to consume. As far as things not being in the news, but just maybe society being the way it is and being angry about the way it is, I think the more you take responsibility for your own healing on an individual level, you will be less outraged and feeling powerless about your position in society. And this is not to negate the fact that prejudices and privilege, they all exist. Absolutely. And you can create a place of personal sovereignty in the way you choose to live your life. You know, in the book Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl is a prisoner in a concentration camp in World War II. The thing that they cannot imprison is his mind. When you're angry, you're letting them imprison your mind. So taking charge of your personal sovereignty means, how am I going to use my thoughts today to curate my emotions? What actions am I going to take today that serve me and benefit me? I can't help that my people are oppressed right now on a societal level. But for me, I'm going to choose peace. I'm going to choose wisdom. I'm going to choose power. I'm going to heal from my personal trauma so I'm not carrying that around with me and letting it spill into all of my interactions with everyone else. How you perceive the world has everything to do with how you experience the world. Your feelings, your actions, your relationships have everything to do with your thought processes and how you're perceiving everything. And how you perceive everything, the thought processes you have, especially these automatic thought processes, if you're not working to curate your thoughts, which you can, these thought processes are coming from subconscious beliefs that you have about yourself, about others, about the world, and those subconscious beliefs primarily come from the first 7 years of your life. 0 to 7, how you are treated by your parents or caregivers, whether you experience trauma or not. And trauma could be like the neighborhood kid teasing you, and now you are shy and you feel like you don't belong and you don't even remember that moment. Conscious stuff, okay? But all of these life experiences that we couldn't make sense of in the ages 0 to 7, and every single human individual in the world has some kind of unresolved experiences that they didn't know how to make sense of in their childhood. And now it's currently affecting their nervous system in their life right now. And if you find yourself angry all the time at things that logically I know I should let go of this. I know it shouldn't make me angry, but I can't help but just feel my blood boil about this. That is unresolved memories. And sometimes they're from older memories. Maybe it's something that happened in your 20s that's still affecting you and triggering you. However, the thought processes, the beliefs that you have and how you're perceiving the world, those come from early childhood. And there are ways for you to heal those, primarily, I would say, through inner child healing, also known as IFS or internal family systems parts work, where you're actually exploring the subconscious part of your psyche in a way where you're not hypnotized, you're staying conscious, but it's a really cool way to make sense of the contradicting thought processes that you have going on in your mind. Also, EMDR, which is a really effective way to treat trauma. It's not talk therapy. Talk therapy is not going to be effective long term. It's going to run you in circles because you already know. You already know all the things logically, but when you can tap into the amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for emotions and memory, you're going to process the trauma in a much different way. So EMDR, IFS, I know there are other techniques I'm not as familiar with, but I've heard are really effective, like brain spotting. Some people really believe in hypnotherapy, which I don't know a lot about, but I believe there's a lot of overlap in the work that I do with EMDR and IFS, and that it's just tapping into that subconscious again. However, I don't know how I feel about allowing someone to go into my subconscious when I'm not fully conscious, you know? So I'm not sure exactly the details of how that works, but I know for some people it's really effective. But treating the trauma, addressing it, releasing it from your body, because our body is storing all these memories that are popping up and triggering us when we don't want to be an angry person anymore. And if you want to get to the root of having a regulated nervous system, yeah, you can do all of those tricks and tips that people say of breathing deeply and exercising and listening to music and chewing gum and all these things that help you calm down. But those are band-aids. Those are reactive. If you want to be proactive to the triggers, then you're going to go back and you're going to do the healing work that are at the root of these triggers so that you can be grounded, so that you can have that light emanating from you, standing in your power saying, I will be treated sacredly. I don't even need to get angry because I'm not going to waste time with anything that makes me feel less than. That's the kind of power that you want to be in. That's true power. Standing grounded in your true self in a place of calmness and clarity, compassion, curiosity, creativity, courage. That's where you want to be rooted in. And so while anger is not inherently bad, and there is a place for anger in teaching you, it's giving you a message. The anger is giving you a message. Something needs to change. What needs to change? The only thing you can change is something that's within your power. And so if the world isn't changing, if society isn't changing, if the system isn't changing, if your friend isn't changing, if your boss isn't changing or your partner, you can't control them. Who can you change? You. What can you change? Your circumstances, your thoughts, your trauma healing. Where can you take responsibility for your own personal sovereignty of the way you are experiencing life? The way you do that is to alchemize your anger into the sacred light. That's all I have to share with you today. For those who are interested in working with me further, experiencing some of this inner child healing, or going deep into alchemizing the anger we're experiencing, recognizing where things need to change in your life. I provide both one-on-one coaching as well as a group community. So if you are interested in making a change this year in 2026 and shifting the things in your life that are no longer serving you, I will drop a link in the show notes to book a free clarity call with me. And in this Zoom call, we're going to talk about what's going on in your life, what you're hoping to change or achieve. And I will explain my processes a little bit more and see if we might be a good fit for working together. So if it's on your heart, book a clarity call now. I would love to meet with you and get to know you and help you to change your life.